Welcome to Chapter 1, Accessing Your Health, and just a little quick tutorial on how to use the pre-recorded lectures. One is do not pause me right when you see the slide. Please listen to me talk while you're writing, and if I go too fast, rewind me. That is the quickest way to move through. Plus, it will also ensure that you write the correct things. The second thing is don't mute me, because I'm going to tell you important things like what not to write, what you need to write that might not be on there. So it's really important for your success that you are actually listening to the lecture. The lectures will never be over 15 minutes long if they're pre-recorded, because the free version of Screencast doesn't allow me to do that. So that's one good thing, and I will try to make them quicker than that. Every chapter starts out with learning outcomes, so these slides will always be posted. They're always at the beginning of the chapter, and you do not need to write these. So just a quick overview of things we're going to learn this chapter. We're going to look at the immediate and long-term rewards of healthy behaviors and how our health choices impact others. We're going to look at the medical model of health and the public health model. You need to know that for the test. We're also going to look at the 6 dimensions of health and wellness from the book, but I'm going to add 2 more because they do not add them in the book. We're going to look at the determinants of health and explain how they influence the health of individuals. And we're also going to look at personal health factors and figure out and learn, hey, are these modifiable or non-modifiable? So you're going to learn to do that. We're also going to look at how we change and why we change. And we want people to make healthy choices, but that requires change. So we're going to compare and contrast the health belief model, the social cognitive model, and the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. And if you like psychology, you'll like that part. Then we're going to look at ourselves and start figuring out what can we change. And that's going to bring us into that first project that we're doing. As individuals, we do have a desire to improve our personal health. From waking up in the morning and brushing our teeth, why do we do that? We do that because we don't want cavities. We don't want bad breath. We have motivations and reasons why we make the choices that we make. And so we have to then pull information to learn more. So where do we get this information? And one of the challenges in our society is getting credible information, because we have so many sources out there to pull information from, and they're not all true. In the 21st century, we are connected to the entire planet. So when you hear about carbon footprint issues, waste management and recycling, when we look at water conservation, saving trees, our little choices every day and the choices of our family can make an impact on our planet. So think about what you're doing and how does it influence you and how does it influence others. On page 2 in the book, you'll see figure 1.1. You do not need to write this in your notes, but maybe put a little thing in your notes that we did refer to figure 1.1 on page 2. One of the top 10 impediments to academic performance for college students is stress. So managing stress, getting more sleep, dealing with sleep difficulties, those can really help us find success. So choices in those areas are going to be important for you as you begin college. How do you manage these things so that you can be successful? Choosing healthy choices now and making those good decisions have immediate benefits. Okay, if you are eating properly and you're in shape and you have good sleep and you're not using products that contain nicotine or drinking a lot of alcohol or using drugs, you are statistically more likely to be free from disease and avoid illnesses, be successful in school, and have healthy relationships. But in the long term, all of those good choices do, if you keep up with them, do lead to successful aging. We're going to talk about that as we go here. But if we are making poor choices, that's going to increase our likelihood of a shorter life. So we talk about life expectancy. So it increase our chances of illnesses and addictions and other issues. It's a good idea to write this slide down because we are using incorrect information from the book. If you look at table 1.1 in the book, you will see a difference compared to this list. So I want you to do that and figure it out. What is different? This is the 2017 data. That's the 2012 data. So write this down and do a little comparison and put a note as to what you found was different. Life expectancy is based on mortality rates. So when we hear the term life expectancy, pretty clear cut, it's how long we're expected to live, But mortality rates are the proportion of death within a population. So basically, it's how many people are dying within a population each year. And then we look at that and we find our life expectancy because we look at the age that people are dying and we do the math to figure out basically an average. And when we look at the past 100 years, life expectancy 100 years ago was 47 for the U.S. It's not that people were, they hit 46. Oh no, I'm going to die at 47. That's not what was happening. What was happening was there were many people living to 78 and 80 years old, which is our current life expectancy. But we had a lot of babies dying, a lot of kids dying. So there was a really big public health movement to stop that because one of the number one reasons that children were dying was because of infectious diseases. So the basically invention of vaccinations really prevented and mandating that kids got vaccinated before they got to school really prevented some of these deaths and some of these high numbers. So now we see less kids dying. So today the leading cause of death is chronic diseases. But remember when I told you to look at the difference in the top 10 causes, the accidents has bumped up to number 3. And accidents, a lot of those are younger people, okay, whether it's car accidents, but one of the big reasons that has bumped up is because overdoses are included in that. A lot of young people dying today of overdoses. So what we have seen and how that correlates is our life expectancy has been increasing as a country because of advances in treatment. The past 2 years, 2016 and 17, that is not the case. We do not see that. We see it plateauing and going down a little bit. Why? Younger people are dying. One thing to also note here is as a country, the United States, our life expectancy is not where our peer nations are. We talk about peer nations in the book. Peer nations are countries that are very similar to us when we look at technology and other areas, when we look at healthcare and things like that. We are behind other nations. Some other key vocab. And by the way, when I have vocab that's really important, it is bolded and underlined. So healthy life expectancy is the number of years of full health without disability, chronic pain, or significant illness. So healthy life expectancy, okay, you may live to 80, but maybe at 65, you started having some major health issues that left you, maybe you're in a wheelchair. Maybe it started with a walker and then a wheelchair, and now you're in a home because you can't be in your house. So healthy life expectancy, we want that number to be very high. We want people living as long as they can in full health. And when we talk about that, we have to look at health-related quality of life, because just because you have a disability doesn't mean you don't have a healthy life. You can have disability and still have a high quality of life. So quality of life, we're looking at this multi-dimensional concept where we're looking at all the areas of health and how we're succeeding in those areas. And really comes down to well-being, the positive aspects of a person's life in all of the dimensions. Bethany Hamilton, I believe, is her name. Soul surfer. There was a whole movie about her. Lost her arm in a shark attack, but came back and still ended up being a pro surfer without her arm. So we can't say just because somebody has a disability, they have a low quality of life. There's a lot of dimensions we need to look at. So a lot of times people say, oh, I make my choices and I'm not impacting anybody else. Leave me alone. I've heard that from my smoker friends. Wrong. Personal health choices do contribute to the burden of disease, and we bear the burden of disease as a society. For example, the obesity epidemic yearly is costing us $150 billion per year to our healthcare system and our economy. A large portion of the medical issues caused by obesity, because again, we're looking at, a lot of older population here dealing with this, and it's impacting their ability to work. So they're either on Medicaid or Medicare because of those issues. That's paid by our tax dollars. Indirectly, we have issues where we're bringing in less taxes because they're not working. We have premature death. We have increased disability payments, and our health insurance is going up if they're using that same insurance company. So you hear about these skyrocketing healthcare costs, and it really comes down to we as a society are bearing the burden of people's poor choices. Which brings us to an interesting concept to think about. Should individuals be held accountable for poor choices? Should they be punished for choices if they're not making healthy ones? And are their choices within their control that they can make better choices that would help our society. So we need to think about that. That brings us to the medical model and the public health model. So the medical model is viewing health as just, you get sick, we need to treat what's sick. We need to cure the disease. And prior to the 1900s, that's pretty much how we looked at health. That changed in the 1900s. They came out with this public health model, okay? And what they started doing was they viewed the individual's interactions with social and physical environments and saw how it impacted their health and decided, hey, we need to make changes to keep people from getting sick. Now we're looking at more prevention. For example, let's think about the Flint, Michigan water crisis. We had lead from old pipes getting in the water supply. People were drinking the water. People were using that water. People were getting really, really sick. Their health was being impacted. So going back to, well, we have to have rules and regulations for our water supplies. Water needs to be getting tested if it's going out into the public. So the view of how to deal with health issues really changed in that early 1900s. So the top 10 greatest public health achievements of the 20th century, you can see right here. And this is all really credited to our view now of using that public health model, is what can we do to prevent and reduce disease and injury and accidents. So that is the view now that really healthcare workers and people in the area to create policy changes, that is that view that they are taking. So that brings up the concept of health promotion. A lot of what's going on right now with health is we're trying to promote and we're trying to reduce negative health behaviors. We're not just, okay, you get the disease, we cure it. You get the disease, you cure it. We're looking at how can we keep people from getting the disease. And we have to look at all different aspects, education, organizations, how we do different procedures, environmental issues, social issues, financial supports. How can we get people to make better health choices? This leads us to look at risk behaviors. Risk behaviors are anything that increases a susceptibility to negative health outcomes. So we want to decrease those risk behaviors. We look at overall wellness, which is that dynamic process of trying to achieve one's potential. We want to promote wellness. And again, that's all of those dimensions. So what is the difference between health and wellness? Is it different or is it the same? Well, they're often used interchangeably. I think there's a difference. So health, we look at the state, where we are currently, our physical, our mental, our social well-being, and wellness is more looking at that evolution, how we're constantly making better choices, how we are kind of evolving to achieve our full potential. And again, it's looking at all of these dimensions. And this is just a little evolution of wellness. You don't have to write everything on here, but kind of maybe just to do a little highlight, but really just looking down from the 1650s to all the way to 2006, where we finally have this really comprehensive look at wellness, where we have 8 dimensions. And so this is now what's being used by our government to really define wellness. And I taught this in 9th grade, but it's a good idea to just write these all down. And you have a little diagram that has them all if you want to kind of just maybe use that and take your notes on that. It's really up to you how you want to do it. The book really covers physical health, which is the functioning of your body, your social health, which is your interpersonal networks and relationships, intellectual, or often called mental health, your ability to think clearly, your emotional health, which is your ability to express your emotions and maintain a level of self-confidence. Spiritual health is that sense of meaning and purpose. Environmental health is appreciating one's environment, taking care of the environment around you. But occupational and financial health have since been added. And you can see that here in the next slide. So these really kind of go over all of those dimensions. Wellness continuum you have, and what I want you to do is kind of mark, where are you? Where are you on this continuum, and why are you there? I want you to then, over here on this side, I want you to write some of your healthy behaviors that you think kind of moves you a little bit over this way, or is helping you to move in this direction. So over on this side, just kind of down here, maybe write anywhere from 3 to 5 of what you think are the healthiest things that you or your